Good morning, everybody. It's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual. And this is another episode of What Are We Talking About Today? And it's the Friday the 13th edition. So, did you guys know why 13 is deemed an unlucky number? Well, women usually have 13 periods a year. So, just another example of the patriarchy trying to make it bad just to be a woman and let things happen naturally. Good news is patriarchy is on its way out. So that's why we say lucky 13. Okay, guys. So there was a few things that I wanted to hit on today. Like I said, it is the Friday the 13th edition. Um, we have the eclipse tomorrow in Libra, and I'm going to just touch a little bit on that because I will do a full episode or full video on the eclipse. But when eclipses come in, I always refer to them as wild magic. And I love that term, wild magic, because it has the word wild and the word magic in it. And I think it's really important for us to lean into that idea of wild magic right now, especially with everything that's going on in the world. And it's really important, if you can, to lean into this idea of this good vibration that's coming through, like this love, like this lightness, like this energy. And I have a lot of people coming in and telling me, like, Jamie, I do feel so much better. And it's weird because, and then you can just fill in the blank because of everything that's coming in. And I just tell them it's important for them to lean into that because, again, if we go back to this idea of duality, or if we go back to Einstein, for every action, there's an opposite reaction, which I think quantum physics or physics is blowing that up, which is fine, it's cool. But the idea is, if we already believe that, then we have to believe and we have to know that something greater or just as great that we see happening is also here. And I've kind of been talking about that for a few years, but when these things come in like this, it's really important, if you can, if you're in space with yourself, that you can lean into this idea of wild magic and goodness and miracles and love. I can't stress that word enough. Love coming in, peace coming in, then put that out there. And one way you put that out there, my coffee cup. The one way you put that out there is just sitting with it, and just knowing. If you could just be in that being and you can be in that knowing, and it doesn't have to be for like 24 hours. It can just be a good solid minute. It can just be a flash where you're just like, oh, actually, everything's going to be okay. There's been plenty times in my life where I've been in situations. One for sure, my dad got into a really bad accident, and I was living in Savannah at the time. And my sister called me, and we didn't know if my dad was going to live or not. And so my mom and I were driving back to Tuscaloosa, and Savannah is about 7 hours from Tuscaloosa. So needless to say, it was a very tough ride home. Um, and then once we got to the other side of Atlanta, something just snapped, something just clicked, and my whole body just said, my dad's going to be okay. As in, like, my dad's not going to pass. And he didn't. And he still had a long road ahead of him, but it was that brief moment, right? Okay. Because up until then, it was touch and go. And that was the days when cell phone service was even worse than it is now, friends. So, and I want to touch a little bit moving into the things, just a thing, just a smudge, everything that's happening in the Middle East. And one thing that I find very interesting is this idea that people kind of want to shush critical thinking about the entire idea of of the idea. And I was reading something on one of my friends. She posted on Instagram last night, and she was posting these memes, or not memes, tweets or whatever. I'm not sure. But basically, and this has happened a lot too, because I will tell you this, I'm at the age now that I sometimes respond to shit on YouTube. Yeah. Before I'd be like, meh. No, I'm like, well, actually, or like, wait a minute, so whatever. And I had written, like, this is a time for peace. And honestly, like, does this shit get trolled? Yes. Are there bots answering? Yes. Okay, so there's that. And but I do find honestly what's interesting is when this one guy came at me. His name is John C. Hammersticks. And I was saying this is a time for peace. This was on you, and this was on, I think, a Morning Joe segment. I put my opinion on. It was not a very long opinion. I was just saying now it's time to call for peace. And he was telling me a lot of other things like blah, 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 blah. And then he said, you know, go sit on a fence somewhere else. And I was like, all right, okay. This was after all the bots came in and a lot of shit. I'm guessing like all the shit was spelled wrong. So maybe it was actually humans. And then there's always the ubiquitous, the only way is the Lord Jesus Christ, which I always wonder if these people understand where Jesus originated from. You know, I don't know. I didn't ask. But sometimes I really feel like some people think like George Washington and Lady Liberty had a baby and they named that baby Jesus. Now, I can't, but sometimes that's what I think. Anyway, I digress. Back to the YouTube. So, anyway, I just wrote, I replied, is John C. Hammersticks your real name? And then he wrote back, like, yeah, why wouldn't I use my real name, John C, or yeah, John, letter C. Are you plugged in? Are you, I don't know, something, blah, blah, blah. And then I just wrote back, Hammersticks? And then he wrote this big long explanation back about, people a lot of times back in the day, people gave themselves their last name or were given a last name from their trade, so blacksmiths, all these things. And I always find this so interesting because then like all the animosity was gone. And I just said, oh, that's really cool. Um, but also in a small way, it was proving, not proving my point, like proving a point, but just like showing, if you are sitting on the fence and you can see for miles and miles and you can see above everything that's happening, and you can just bring it down a notch and you can ask Mr. Hammersticks to come sit on the fence and just have a conversation. It really brings the temperature down. It really brings the level down. So when people are saying, and myself included, there is a bigger conversation that needs to be happening in the Middle East. And this one woman said, so she did right. You're condemning terrorism and all these things. And I said, I'm not condemning anything. I'm calling for peace. And peace is peace. Love is love. Grief is grief. Happiness is happiness. And for some reason in the world, we keep comparing how grief is our grief. Are we grieving enough? My grief's more than your grief. My sadness is bigger than your sadness. My love's bigger than your love. You and your person love, but my person loves me this much more. It's fucking annoying, right? And it's all that comparison and it's all that competition. And that's what keeps us in, it keeps us in fear. It keeps us in grief. It keeps us upset because, well, why didn't I get this? Blah, blah, looking at all these things. Okay. And all these stories are these stories that are starting to fade away. That's when they start waking up. You start waking up and you're like, why am I comparing myself to these people that aren't even real on Instagram or Facebook? Because we all have that one friend who has the best life ever, right? On Facebook, no matter what. Okay. And it's annoying. Okay. And look, I am in the spiritual community. I'm in the spiritual world. Like I get it. At the same time, I get it. Like it can be annoying. And it makes me laugh, right? That just reminds me like that I'm human and I have feelings, and on earth we have good days and we have bad days, at the same time. If I'm loving what I do and I'm, I then I don't feel that need to compare. And look, I get on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. I'm filming this for YouTube. But it is that acute awareness of, being influenced and being told a story, and shit, of course you want people to see that you're having a good time, or or maybe not, so that's when it's important for us to come in and really pay attention to how we feel and what we're thinking, and monitoring how long we're on social media and whatnot. So back to the critical thinking. So and I'm seeing this a lot, and back to my friend that posted this stuff, and it was like, if you are basically having, like, thinking of the bigger picture about Israel, and then Hamas, and the Palestinians, then you are, and it is, I can see that finger coming in, then you are this and you are that, and you're condemning terrorism, and that doesn't gaslight me, that doesn't blow me up, but it does make me realize that people don't want people to think critically. People don't want people to zoom out and see the bigger picture, right? Because there are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of answers that can be had that are probably a lot more simple, right? um I mean, and really, and also I want to say this, and this is when, okay, my blood pressure might go up a little bit. To think that most people haven't had a tragedy or experienced a tragedy or as an experienced loss on a grand scale is also a little foolish, for lack of better words. Okay. I was gonna say I'm 43. I'm not, I'm 45. And I've seen straight up violence. I've been in gunfire. I've seen people shot and bleeding out in front of me. I've one night I woke to a woman or a person screaming for help. And I was like, no one's going down there. And I had to make that decision. Do I put my pants on and go down at 2 a.m. and see what's happening? And am I prepared for that? And I did. And this trans person had been shot in the face. She didn't have an eye. Um, and so I sat, and I called 911, all those things. So to say, like, I don't, and I'm not saying like me personally, but to say like people don't have a right to think about this critically or to come above this is also just something to be observed, okay? Because we do need to think critically. And this is me saying me statements. I think we need to think critically about this situation. I think we need to realize a lot of people have experienced really horrible things no matter where they live in the world. Whether your house was completely burned, in wildfires, or your city was taken out with a tornado. I was there in Tuscaloosa. Everyone kept hearing those sirens, for days and days and weeks. That's PTSD, you know? So, gun violence, dropping your child off at school, and then having someone come in and start opening fire. Okay. All these things, horrible, tragic, you know? So I think a lot of us are okay to speak on the matter, you know? Um, and I think it is okay to speak on the matter. And I think it is okay to point out that the same old white men have been in power, and the same old stories keep getting played out over and over and over again. And it is important to keep books in schools because it is important to have critical thinking. It is important to learn history. So then you're like, what the fuck? This has already happened like 6 times before. And then it is important to see, Jesus Christ, those were the same people all in power. And I'm using that term loosely. When all these things keep happening, wow, what? What? Right? And I want to put that out there in the sense that all these stories and all these like all these stories, like, they need to be talked about, they need to be seen, you know. Saint Rock, the coffee's hitting good this morning, you guys. Saint Rock blend, the chicory's coming in hot. um but all these stories, and it's important to see where people in power want to stay in power, and how do they do that. Okay, how do they do that? The reality of it is the leader of Israel was becoming extremely autocratic. And finally, one guy said that on Nicole Wallace's show yesterday. And so he was like, no, 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 no shit. This happened, right? He wasn't paying attention to anything. He was just trying to pay attention to keep power for himself. Same storyline here in America. Okay. Same storyline there in Russia. Okay. These same storyline in Turkey. Okay. All these autocrats that want to stay in power, they don't care about anything about them except for them staying in power. Um, you know, our president right now has been in politics for 40 fucking years, you know. Um, the UN, the leader of the UN said, hey, we really can't do our job with Russia being on the board because they have veto power. So it's really hard for us to bring peace to regions when the people that are inflicting a war are sitting right here, right? Okay, that was said out loud. That was reported on the news, right? He said, we need to start over. And where we are right now as a planet, as a humankind, as a human race, is we are at this point of starting over. Okay. And creation can be hard. Creation can be tricky. Creation isn't, it's not easy, right? And I can look back. I mean, I can not look back, but I can look and say, look, like Pluto's turned direct again. Pluto is going to hit Aquarius again, which it hasn't. It hit it a little bit earlier, but it hasn't in our lifetime, right? And it's going to hit Aquarius January 20th, go back into Capricorn, and then hit Aquarius again, and then stay there for 20 years, right? But when this Pluto turns and starts going, that is when, to me, that's when like all this uprising. But I would say like this is when all this creation, this is all this creation, this is what's happening. And we're here to help create, right? And so if you are in a state right now where you're tired or you're burnt out or you're overwhelmed, honor that. Okay. And if you are in a state where like you feel excited, and you feel excited in your life, not because of the stuff going on in the world, but in your life, and you're able to really lean into that, then lean into that, because both of those feelings, both of those ideas, but both of like feeling tired and feeling up, that's all creation. It all has to be happening at the same time. It can't just be one. We can't have eternal summer, right? Persephone has to go to the underground. We have to have seasons. Maybe on another planet they don't. I don't know, yo. We could go there and find out, right? But right now here on Earth, that is the way things happen. And it's really important for us to honor these seasons. It's important for us to grieve. It is important for us to celebrate. It's important for us to be okay. It's important for us to have a 5 out of 10 day. That's okay. It's great for us to have a 10 out of 10 day. But it's really important for us to bring back critical thinking. It's important for us to bring back feelings. How does this make me feel? Right? When we are in this AI world, we're void of all that. It's like more. We want to see more. We want to see more. We want to catch that high. We want to catch something funny. We want to catch something sad, but we're really not paying any attention. That's short circuiting us. It's not working for anybody. I don't even know if it's working for the AI robots. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. I don't care that much in the sense that I know it's important to go out and sit with nature. It's important for us to listen to bird songs. It's important for us to smell the fresh air. It's important for us to make sure we're getting clean drinking water, because that is Earth, right? That is what we're here on Earth to do. And that is what we're on Earth. We're on Earth to be, right? And how am I being today? Am I being happy? Am I being sad? Am I being I'm thoughtful? Am I being compassionate? Am I being super pissed off right now? And when we're in that being and we honor ourselves, right? That's how life gets made, right? I told my friend Patricia on Monday, I was in a complete meltdown status. What we call it, sirens going off, meltdown status. I was trying to work with this photographer and I was getting all these things, and then it just completely melted down. And I texted my friend and I said, I'm I'm in a meltdown right now. And she said, "Oh no, what happened?" And I sent her the text message and she said, "Jamie, she's just saying this, probably, asking, to make sure you're on the same page or whatever." And Patricia was correct. And I knew that's what this person was doing. But unfortunately, it was the final straw, right? And it was like, okay, the feather that broke the camel's back, broken. Okay. Did I freak out on this girl or blah, blah, blah? No, no, because I knew that I was in a complete meltdown, right? And when I hit meltdown status, like we all do, it doesn't really matter what anyone says, because we're just in a meltdown and we're going to go a certain route. And that, in that route, if you're in a meltdown and it needs to be had, the best thing you can do is just kind of be objective about it. Cause I kept saying, this is me. I know I can see it this other way and talk about it this other way, but I'm just not, And again, things were fine. Like I said, I didn't cuss this woman out or anything like that, but I knew what I was feeling. I knew I was in a meltdown. And I kept telling Patricia, like, it's me, it's not this person. I get it. But in that time, I was able to sit in my meltdown, sirens blaring, right, the whole day in my mind, and go over all the little things that led me to meltdown status. And it was okay. It was okay. Like, yep, that was probably it. I know that was it, because I didn't deny myself and say, no, why are all these people crazy? These people suck. I mean, okay, I might have said that too, but I knew it was more me, right? And I was able to go for my walks. So, and then, the next day I was kind of telling the story to another friend, and we were kind of laughing about it because I was just like, I was in the middle, and they could see both sides of the story, right? And that was it. No one was wrong, right? It was just, I was having a meltdown. They could see, we're like, oh yeah, I got it. But no one was like, that's the worst person on the planet, like that. And you guys, I'm just saying, critical thinking, right? And then I was able to look at things objectively, even though I felt, I just wanted to lay down and put a blanket over me. But, it was able to pass. It was able to move through it. It was my choice to say, I know what's happening. I'm going to have to kind of just ride this out. There's not much I can do. I know whatever happens, like, it was like mitigating, right? Like, it could get really bad but I'm just going to try to. So in this time of creation, if things are happening where you're just melting down, you can't take it anymore, honor it, know it'll pass, tell a good friend, hopefully one that will help you write it out and not like throw gas on the fire. Because I got some of those friends too. They will do anything for a 6-pack, and I love them dearly. It's good to cast a wide net, if you know what I mean. So, but if you can, right? Because creation is hard. I'm doing a lot more parties now, and the number one question is, am I on the right life path? And we talk about it, right? And so it is important when we have these questions, am I on the right life path, to go over what you think your morals are and how you want to feel, and just start there, right? And it doesn't need to be big, but just start there. Friday the 13th, right? Lucky 13, wild magic season. It is important to look at where you are in your life. It is important to say, if I don't feel like I'm getting to these things, what is keeping me from getting to those things, right? Critical thinking, asking questions, but just sit with it for the next couple weeks, because these eclipses are coming in. These eclipses bring in aha moments. This eclipse is in Libra, South Node Libra. We're not doing things to make sure other people feel okay first. That's why I really feel like I'm okay coming out and saying, you know what? The shit that happened in the Middle East, fucking awful. We need to look at the bigger picture. Okay. We need peace. How do we get to peace? I'm not saying these people were right and these people were wrong. At the same time, we need to look at the bigger picture, and we need to see who's still in power, right? On all sides in the entire world, right? That's looking at the bigger picture. It's okay. John C. Hammersticks may not be still on the fence with me, which I don't think it's whatever. I was thinking, but you know what, bro? It's a lot more peaceful on this fucking fence, right? And when I'm at peace, that's when I can bring peace to my brothers and sisters. And sometimes that's why people come in, right? That's why we have mediators. That's why we have people, speak for us when we need help, right? Mediators, people that will hold the line. Okay. Like my friend Patricia, she was able to hold the line. Her ass was in Las Vegas. I know she's traveling, right? Hold the line. I saw Heidi that same day. She was working on her Mortis spray, and I was able to talk to her. She was able to hold that line. You know, that's important. That's important to find those people that can hold the line, especially in this time of change, especially in this time of creation, especially in this time of birth. I told my friend Patty, I was like, we were talking about something a little bit different. And I said, well, because I was saying, like, with these things and these people, and I told the universe the other day, I said, look, universe, it's okay. I'm ready. This wheel of karma and things coming around. I really don't want to have the idea that, oh, you're going to have the exact same thing again, and then you get to change it a little bit. I was like, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like, I'm okay with having new situations and new people come into my life. And I was talking out loud to the universe. And and I was telling her, my thing that I say is, I guess it's time to grow a vagina and birth something new. And she wrote back, go Yanni. And I almost spit my coffee out. So that's what I say. Before we always say, well, you just got to show up and grow a pair. No, I think we all need to grow vaginas and birth something new, because that's where we're at. This old is ending. Pluto's transformation, it's turned around again. It's waking back up. It's like, you guys are really still in this old shit with, okay, well, let me turn around, wake back up, and let's think about this differently. In that divine feminine energy coming in, it doesn't mean men are being left behind. It's this energy of creation that's coming in, right? We can all create. It is this energy of nurturing. It's this energy of compassion, right? That's that divine feminine energy, right? It's this intense knowledge. That's the other thing I was going to say, and then maybe I'll wrap it up so I don't get too long. But I did a past life regression with Britt. It was really good. We did it over Zoom. It was just fine. So if you guys if I live in another state, can I do a past life regression with Britt over Zoom? You can. And she and I live in the same fucking state. I mean, same town, and we still did it. And what came through, and like I was bebopping along, like she's doing all these things, she's talking you through the stuff, and I was like, okay. And I thought, oh, I'm probably going to come out like in medieval times, and then I did not come out in medieval times. I came out in a wartime, and it was awful. The sounds, everything was awful. Okay. But what came through in that session was that we all have ancient key codes that we can awaken in us, and you just need to ask for them. The key codes of knowledge, the key codes of peace, the key codes of understanding, all these key codes, right? Because what was happening at that time was all of that was being suppressed, and everybody was really angry about it, and they were kind of going along blindly. And it was, now that happened a couple weeks ago, and now all the stuff that happened right now, it's eerie in the fact that I'm like, because it's showing me this is like this whole scenario has happened again, has already happened. Um, and it's time for us to start calling, we talk about all the ancestral trauma in our DNA, but it's also important to start bringing in all the knowledge in our DNA, right? All the things that we know that's just ingrained with us. And they're like, how'd you know that? And you're like, I just did, right? And we're watching kids do all these things, and they're like, how do they know that? Because they just do. We've got to waken that back up for us, bring in that key code. It was said it was from, I'm just going to, Atlantis, the Atlantis key code. Ask for it to come in, ask for it to wake up. And also know that we have so much more knowledge. We have knowledge. It's ancient knowledge, right? It's knowledge of the earth. It's this knowledge. That's why everyone, I would say that's why everyone's getting back into plants and in that kind of medicine, because that's where it all came from. And I'm not talking just like psychedelics and shit like that. I mean, all over the board, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, that's where all our modern medicine comes from. So ask for these key codes to be awakened in you, these ancient key codes that we know that's in our DNA. The time is now. A big swath of things are ending. I can see them. I mean, not like, oh, I see it. Like, I mean, I see it like literally, like people that I watch on YouTube ending their channels, people that are starting new jobs, people are ending old jobs, it is. All the stuff is coming through, and how you experience it is important. If you need to take a time out, again, take a time out. Always know you have the choice. You have the choice no matter what is going on in your world. And that's really hard for people to hear that. But we do. We have a choice how we want to show up every day, And listen, trauma is real. PTSD is real. All those things are real. So if for the day you can show up and you have that choice to show up in love and show up in peace, I would ask for you to please make that choice. And no, I'm making that choice today. I'm choosing to show up like this, just like you can choose to put that wingtip eyeliner on or not, make that choice, own it, be happy with it. But also know it's time to bring in that ancient knowledge that we all have within us, and if you want to, go see Britt. She can help you with that as well. Okay. I'm going to be quiet just for a second and see if anything else is coming in. I wanted this to be about critical thinking. I wanted this to be like, it's okay. I mean, if things are ending, it's okay to grieve, but it's also okay to be very excited that we're in this time of creation. It's okay to create, it's okay to create. And even if it's like today, I'm creating peace within my mind, I'm creating peace within my body. Even if it's creating this idea that you start a new conversation with yourself, with your guides, with your neighbors, right? With your dogs, with your cats, with your birds, all of that is part of this creation. Do things that bring you joy, do things that make you happy. It's okay to sing in the car, all those things. It's okay. It's okay just to show up. It's okay just to be. It's okay to sit on your couch, right? All these things. That is part of creation. Okay, friends. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'm going to do a video tomorrow for the eclipse. Happy eclipse season. It is wild magic. Allow things to show up, allow things to eclipse in, allow things to eclipse out. Helen and I will be back next week with another big week, I'm sure. Till then, enjoy your Friday the 13th, the lucky 13.